Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening for joining. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'll give like 30 more seconds to everybody to join before we get started. And as you are joining, I would say, please do indicate in the chat box, where are you from, your name and organization. We would like this session to be interactive. Great, wonderful. I think our 30 seconds are up. So why don't we get started? My name is Monica Kothari. I am the facilitator for you today. I served as the Deputy Director of the Maximizing Quality of the Scaling Up Nutrition Project, leading the facilitation of technical assistance to Sun countries and the Sun Movement Secretariat led by PATH. It is my pleasure to welcome you today to the second regionally focused roundtable on the Nutrition for Growth Year of Action 2021 and the forthcoming Nutrition for Growth Summit. This roundtable is co-hosted by the Scaling Up Nutrition Movement and the Global Nutrition Report, and is focused on bringing together a group of participants from the East and Southern Africa region. I would like to highlight that we are gathered here to discuss and mobilize our commitments towards nutrition for growth. This is our chance to discuss the opportunities and challenges of commitment making, and also to understand what more assistance you all might need while formulating various kinds of commitments. Please consider this roundtable an informal and a safe space for you to share your thoughts. Before we start, I would like to remind those who are listening to, as I said earlier, please do indicate in chat, where are you from, your name and organization. Please post your questions and comments in the chat box. We have GNR and Sun colleagues monitoring this chat box, and they can respond to your questions in the chat or follow up afterwards. If you have questions for a particular panelist who are speaking today, please state clearly to who it is directed for. Finally, I would like to remind that we are recording this meeting for those colleagues who are unable to join us today. Now, without further ado, I would like to start by sharing with you a pre-recorded welcome message from Dr. Amy Inaoka, Deputy Director, Special Assistance for Global Health, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan, that will be hosting the Nutrition for Growth Summit in Tokyo in December 2021. Amy, over to you to share the video.
Dear members of Sun countries, thank you very much for your very warm welcome to this regional roundtable on Nutrition for Growth 2021, organized by the Global Nutrition Report and the Scale Up Nutrition Movement. Due to the COVID-19, food insecurity has increased and malnutrition is on the rise. With 4 years left to achieve the World Health Assembly nutrition targets and 9 years to achieve the SDGs, the N4G Summit in December 2021 is a key opportunity to renew political momentum, mobilize additional funding, and accelerate action for ending all forms of malnutrition. We also hope that the summit can help revitalize ownership of the nutrition agenda at the highest political level and be an occasion for renewed alignment between nutrition stakeholders at national level. Policy action for nutrition should be discussed with other related issues such as universal health coverage, food systems, and development assistance. This is an opportunity to bring nutrition stakeholders together to jointly review progress and bottlenecks on implementing national nutrition plans and identify areas where further action is needed, forming the basis of aligned commitments by governments and other stakeholders. Finally, we wish to acknowledge its strong leadership of several partners and stakeholders, including donors, UN agencies, business, civil society, and of course, the Sun Movement and GNR to make commitments so that Nutrition for Growth be a truly successful and significant event. We wish you all a productive and engaging roundtable, and we look forward to welcoming you to the Tokyo N4G Summit to make ambitious commitments to fight all forms of malnutrition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Amy, for this message for all the participants and the panelists. And as she said, that this is our opportunity to revitalize the commitments towards nutrition. Now, let me pass on the floor to Ms. Ada Warburg, Sun Movement Coordinator and United Nations Assistant Secretary General, for introductory remarks to all the participants today. Over to you, Ada.
Thank you very much, Monica, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all the participants. I welcome all of you, and I see the number of participants is still growing. All most welcome to this very important roundtable on building momentum for the Nutrition for Growth Year of Action. And dear friends, we need a year of action. Actually, we need a decade of action on nutrition, and because of 5 reasons. And let me give you the reasons. First of all, and we're all aware of this, good nutrition is the foundation for living an active and healthy life and for children to reach their physical and cognitive potential. So investing in nutrition is a no regret, and from this perspective, it is not only something to serve Sustainable Development Goal number 2, but it is impacting all Sustainable Development Goals. The second one is because the COVID crisis has hit hard. And in many countries, we see the gains that are made in the recent 10 or 15 years are at risk to be faded away all, which pushes us back to too many stunted children, wasting, malnourished women, etc., etc. That's the second reason, and we need to focus on how to build forward better, learning that in many countries, the systems are failing. Not only the health system, not only the social protection system, but also the food systems, the education, and other socioeconomic systems. So don't look at nutrition only from a health or a food perspective, but it needs to be a holistic, a systems approach, and this is what we need to build forward better. The third reason is because we have great opportunities to make country commitments. The first is the Food Systems Summit that will be hosted by the Secretary General of the UN in September. And good nutrition, producing healthy, diverse, nutritious food is part of it. Actually, this Food Systems Summit is already a systems approach because the objective is to invest in people and invest in our planet alike. And it can only be done hand in hand, and it can only be done if countries are ready to make multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder commitments. And commitments need to be ambitious, and commitments need to be funded. But it starts with clear proposals. And there is a great opportunity for all of you. And right now we have more than 120 participants to be at the table of the food systems dialogues in your own country, to feed in, to come forward with your proposals and to build an ambitious agenda for your country. Not only for the Food Systems Summit, but the Food Systems Summit will be a springboard for the N4G Summit that will be hosted by the government of Japan, and Amy has welcomed all of us already. We see a close connection because once there are ambitious plans, we can build on it and making sure that there will be more funding. Funding is lagging behind. And given the fact that out of the COVID crisis, maybe public funding might be less, we need to be even stronger in advocacy for more funding. We need $7 billion a year more to really do something about malnutrition in a systemic way that can be owned by people in communities and cities and in the rural area. So that is what we hope to do in the food systems, in the N4G summit. And we have had already a pre-summit hosted by Canada, Bangladesh, and the Gates Foundation, where participants have committed already $3 billion. So 4 more to go, and we need to roll on our sleeves. The 5th and final one is because of exactly your region. We have been able, by working together at a country level, as different stakeholders and sectors, to decrease the number of stunted children in 25 years from 255 million to 156 million. And that is something because the society population was rapidly growing. However, in the region of Eastern and Southern Africa, the number of stunted children is going up because in these regions, families are growing so rapid that we need to double down on the fight in your region. Reason to roll on your sleeves, reason to try to bring all players together to make strong commitments. The Global Nutrition Report has refreshed tools to make strong and smart commitments, so you're not in this alone, and all our Sun Movement members are happy to support you wherever they can. But you, at country level, are in the lead. We count on your leadership at country level, at subnational level. You can count on all the Sun Movement and the Global Nutrition Report people involved. All the best, looking forward to sound outcomes of this roundtable. Back to you, Monica.
Thank you so much, Erda, for those important remarks. As you said, investing in nutrition is no regret. We need to be ambitious, and countries are in the lead. Thank you so much for those remarks. Now I would like to give the floor to Dr. Renata Miha, Chair of the Global Nutrition Report Independent Expert Group. Dr. Miha will be presenting to you on the Global Nutrition Report's key resources, including its new developed N4G Commitment Registration Form and N4G Commitment Registration Guide. Over to you, Dr. Renata.
I think she's still muted, eh?
Yeah, Dr. Renata, we cannot hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. I was just saying that this is such a wonderful opportunity to get everybody's thoughts and understand how we can better support them during the commitment making process. And obviously, I echo everything what that was just said by Monica Herda, of course. I have been the chair of the Global Nutrition Report for about a year now, and it's wonderful to see this exciting time for nutrition. Everybody coming together to advance and prioritize the nutrition agenda. I'm here to talk to you about the role of the Global Nutrition Report in the Year of Action and how we will be supporting and driving stronger nutrition commitments. Just to put things in perspective, 1 in 9 people are hungry and undernourished, and 1 in 3 adults are overweight or obese. Malnutrition can take many forms and includes multiple diet-related conditions caused by not having enough calories, nutrients, or quality food, or by having too much low quality or unhealthy food. What do we mean when we say undernutrition? We mainly refer to childhood stunting and wasting, as well as micronutrient deficiencies such as anemia. It's unacceptable that 800 million people, including children, don't have enough food or enough healthy food. That number is twice the size of the United States, and it has gone up with COVID that has led to food shortages. At the same time, overweight and obesity affect 2 billion adults worldwide. This is a big number, and it's going up. Obesity puts a lot of strain to our health systems, and our societies, as it's both a chronic disease and a risk factor for other diseases. And building population resilience through addressing nutrition is essential, and COVID made us realize that the hard way. What does that mean for countries? This map shows progress made by countries towards the global nutrition targets that are set to expire in 4 years. These targets were set by the World Health Assembly, and there are 10 targets covering maternal and child malnutrition, such as anemia, low birth weight, stunting, and wasting, and diet-related chronic diseases, such as overweight, obesity, and diabetes. To give you examples of actual targets set, for stunting, the goal is to reduce by 40% the number of children under 5 who are stunted. And for adult obesity, it's to stop the rise in prevalence. Of course, for all targets, which is the orange of this chart, means that none of the 10 global targets are on course to being met. And that's the case for almost half of all countries. 50 countries are on course to meet at least 1 target, 35 at least 2, 13 at least 3, and just 8 to meet 4 targets, which is the maximum number of targets any country is on track to meet out of the 10. This is clearly a problematic picture and highlights the need to scale up our efforts to improve nutrition. So what is driving this global nutrition crisis? Our diets. Poor diets is a leading cause of poor health as compared to many other traditional risk factors such as smoking, high blood pressure, even air pollution. Almost 300 million years are lost prematurely every year worldwide due to child and maternal malnutrition, and almost 200 million years are lost prematurely due to poor diet habits associated with chronic diseases. The Global Nutrition Report was born in 2013 out of the Nutrition for Growth Summit to help us understand nutrition and guide action globally. A global problem requiring a global solution. And to serve this purpose, we created 2 tools which have been refreshed and will be updated further this year. The country nutrition profiles that track the problem, how we are burdened by poor diets and malnutrition in all its forms, because we need evidence-based decision-making and actions. And the nutrition commitment tracker that tracks the solutions offered, because poor diets and resulting malnutrition are not simply a matter of personal choices, and because promises without action or strong action mean nothing. We will come back to the nutrition tracker, so let's start with the country nutrition profiles. What can you expect to find on our country nutrition profiles? As the name suggests, the nutrition profile of each country worldwide, as well as for the regions and the globe. Our tool focuses on the where, the location, leveraging the latest available nutrition data. We have used interactive features and charts to best visualize the available information that is cutting across 5 sections. The visuals that will follow on this slide are some key snapshots from the website for illustration, and we'll be looking at key findings on the region's progress shortly after that. And I apologize for any background noise. That's my baby crying. First and foremost, our profiles feature progress towards global nutrition targets. These targets, as mentioned, are set to expire in 4 years. Diets, covering what we eat from infants to adults and how that compares to optimal levels of consumption. Burden of malnutrition, covering the various forms of malnutrition across the life course. Nutrition strategies and financing, action strategies, policies taken to address poor diets and malnutrition, and investments that are being made. And last but not least, social determinants of nutrition, such as under 5 mortality rate, poverty, and various markers of inequality. Looking specifically at the Eastern Africa region, we see that progress towards each of the global nutrition targets is slow. Progress is being assessed by comparing current levels with expected levels for the countries to be able to meet those targets on time. Looking at how filled the blue-gray bar is, you can see that only a few countries are on course to meet select few targets, mainly exclusive breastfeeding, under 5 stunting, wasting, and overweight. For example, for exclusive breastfeeding, 3 of the 18 countries in the region are on course, and for under 5 stunting, only 1 country is on course, while no country is on course to meet all targets. Similarly, in the Southern Africa region, progress is slow. There's some progress for the same targets, exclusive breastfeeding, under 5 stunting, wasting, and overweight, and no progress for diet-related chronic diseases. So clearly more needs to be done. We briefly saw the country nutrition profiles and how these profiles help us track the problem. You can visit, of course, our website to see in more detail the state of your country. And now let's explore together the nutrition commitment tracker that tracks the solutions that are being offered. The nutrition tracker focuses on the who makes commitments and the type of commitments they make. What you can expect to find on our tracker now is commitments made at past summits. For the year of action, we will be updating the webpage to reflect the new principles and the new commitments to be made. In terms of the who, we monitor pledges made by all stakeholders, including countries, donors, businesses, civil society, and the UN. The commitments they make can vary. A key example is financial commitments that support increased financing for nutrition, such as the proportion of total government health budget allocated to nutrition or securing a specified amount for nutrition investments. Another example is policy commitments related to implementing any regulatory framework, policy, or action plan, such as product taxation, a sugar, and beverage tax, product reformulation, fortification, marketing, labeling regulations, school policies, and dietary guidelines. And another example is impact commitments that are in line with the global nutrition targets and sustainable development goals, such as decreasing childhood stunting and wasting or decreasing the prevalence of obesity. To give you a taste of how we track and report on each commitment made at past summits, as mentioned, our tool assesses progress made as having reached their targets, on course or off course. Most commitments were made and reached by countries. To showcase this, I picked the UK as a prominent example, where they exceeded their target to disperse a total of £2.7 billion in nutrition-specific and nutrition-sensitive financing between 2013 and 2018, dispersing in total £3.9 billion. They also reached the original target to reach 50 million children, adolescent girls and women with various nutrition programs by 2020. As mentioned, this section of our website will be updated to reflect key changes in GNR's role in the year of action and beyond, so please stay tuned for those changes. So if 2020 was an eye-opening year for nutrition, I hope for everybody, 2021 should be the year of making strong and impactful nutrition commitments. To drive stronger and smarter nutrition commitments in the year of action, the Global Nutrition Report will remain the primary and go-to nutrition accountability mechanism, and develop and lead the nutrition accountability framework, effectively construct and coordinate the entire framework under which nutrition commitments will be monitored, and will leverage and realign existing other accountability mechanisms. This framework will include eligibility and qualifying criteria for nutrition commitments, effectively which nutrition commitments can be monitored. It will also establish methods for monitoring nutrition commitments, covering the registration and progress assessment. The framework will facilitate the registration of nutrition commitments via online tools through a guide and a form, which I will be introducing shortly, and will also enable reporting on progress on an annual basis. The overall goal of this framework is to monitor nutrition commitments, assess and report on their progress, and evaluate how that ultimately leads to improved nutrition. The GNR will be detailing and publishing the work of the Nutrition Accountability Framework throughout this year, and as soon as material and resources get developed. To facilitate the commitment registration process for the year of action, the GNR has developed a registration guide and form, which have been endorsed by the government of Japan and are in alignment with the N4G commitment making guide and the vision and roadmap. The registration process involves 4 steps: reviewing the guide, formulating smart nutrition commitments, registering your commitments online, and reporting on your progress to the Global Nutrition Report. Let's look at the guide in a bit more detail. This step-by-step guide includes what you need to know before making a commitment, effectively familiarizing yourselves with the N4G principles of engagement, the thematic areas, and the commitment types, such as policy, financial, operational, and so on. It describes the registration form and provides examples on how to complete the form. It explains how to formulate SMART commitments and provides examples of SMART nutrition commitments. Making a SMART commitment ensures that the commitment that is put forward is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, and that it can be tracked and reported on annually. It also provides a link for where to go to and register your commitments online. And finally, it describes what to expect after registering your commitments, which is that all commitments will be recorded in the Compact, the outcome document of the Tokyo N4G Summit. Commitments will also be shared publicly by the GNR, which will be tracking and reporting progress towards those commitments on an annual basis. It is recommended that you register your commitments online. Alternatively, you can download the registration form and email it to the GNR team. The completion of the form is required in order to register your commitments. The form has 3 sections. Section 1 identifies the commitment-making entity and the stakeholder group it represents, as well as the number of commitments to be registered. Multiple commitments across all thematic areas are encouraged. Section 2 is where you can record your commitments and has 3 parts. The first part specifies the commitment criteria, type, and focus. That is the criteria that the commitments must meet, including being SMART, aligning with national priorities, aligning with principles of engagement, and annual reporting to the GNR, and then indicating, of course, the commitment type and focus. The second part is the commitment ingredients, which is the breakdown of the commitment into distinct ingredients to enable the formulation of SMART and trackable commitments. And the third part is the full commitment as to be registered in the Compact. That is a formulation of the full commitment using the previously defined ingredients. Please note that we need both ingredients of each commitment and its full wording. Section 3 is any feedback you have for us that will be used to strengthen and improve the registration form and the wider registration process. We're confident that the guide and the form will provide the required support to make SMART commitments. These 2 documents will be refined further in the next couple of months based on feedback we receive and the resources we secure. Ideally, the commitments should be registered on time for the Tokyo N4G Summit. This year, we have the opportunity to put nutrition at the top of the global policy agenda and reverse the negative effects of COVID on nutrition. But only if all stakeholders take bold and concerted action. The GNR makes the case for governments, businesses, and civil society to enable faster and stronger progress towards improving nutrition in 4 key ways. Build equitable, resilient, and sustainable food and health systems to ensure that everyone has access to healthy food and quality nutrition care. Expand financing and direct resources and programs to the communities and populations most affected. Focus on joint efforts by engaging and mobilizing all sectors to act now and target those most in need. Leverage key moments such as the UN Food System Summit and the Tokyo Nutrition for Growth Summit to renew and expand commitments and strengthen accountability to monitor pledges and commitments. That's enough for me. I hope I covered how the Global Nutrition Report will be supporting and driving stronger nutrition commitments in the year of action and beyond. We really look forward to receiving your commitments, and please feel free to reach out to us for any questions relating to the registration process. I look forward to our discussion. Over to you, Monica. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Renata, for highlighting for the participants that we are far away from meeting the global nutrition targets. This is the year where we need to make smart and bold commitments. And GNR is offering these tools which can help us draft commitments. So I would encourage everyone, if you have questions, please do put them in chat or bring up to the discussion later in the session. With that, I would basically like to invite our panelists, but before I do that, I would like to highlight the questions to our speakers that please keep your responses to 5 minutes. If you go over, our team will let you know. So please excuse us in advance for that. And the first question that we would like to pose to our panelists include: the Nutrition for Growth Year of Action and Summit presents stakeholders from different sectors, countries, and regions with an unprecedented opportunity to prioritize and advance progress on nutrition. What actions are your country, is taking to advance the nutrition agenda? And what type of assistance might you need to make progress on nutrition, and also in preparing for the Tokyo N4G Summit? So let me invite first Ms. Gladys Mugambi, Head Division of Health Promotion of Kenya, an Executive Committee member of the Sun Movement, to share her thoughts, and then I will move around to hear more comments, remarks, and responses from others. So over to you, Ms. Gladys.
Thank you, Monica, and thank you, Dr. Renata and Gada, for setting the discussion. And I would like to share what we are planning to do as Kenya. As you know, maybe those who do not know, Kenya has a policy on food security and nutrition. And we've been going through a process. We developed an implementation framework, and out of that, we've developed a plan of action. The plan of action is costed, and we've gone down to the counties. We have 47 counties, and we want to ensure that all of them have developed these plans. The plans are multi-sectoral. The approach is the food systems approach, and we've been able to achieve in several areas in terms of building systems for us to be able to reduce malnutrition, especially stunting. And we've even put in place laws that are helping us to improve the infant feeding. If we continue with the way we are going, then we should be able to reach out to the other ministries that are relevant, which we have already done because the plans are multi-sectoral, and ensure that the implementation of the actions that are there in the plan are actually being done, and resources are being committed to do that work. So far, because we know that implementation is at the county level, that is the lowest level, we have had 26 counties committing and developing their plans and launching them. And therefore, in preparation for N4G, we'd like to bring together all the stakeholders to plan together, document what we've been able to achieve, and then show what we would like to do in the next few years so that there can be commitments at the highest level. And so through the plan, we have identified the key areas of action and we have costed them. So the next steps is to bring together the SAN networks, and we'd like to meet as soon as possible in the next week, and all the key ministries so that we can discuss together how we are going to present this to the highest level. We have more to do in terms of strengthening actions that are nutrition sensitive. We've done a lot in nutrition in Ministry of Health, where we are addressing the nutrition specific actions. And we've built systems up to the sub-county level and ensuring that we have technical people who are focusing on the actions that we have agreed on. So what we would like to see as we move forward is an approach whereby all the stakeholders are part of the planning and part of the process in coming up with our commitments as a country. And therefore, we want to see how bringing these people together can happen as soon as possible. The kind of support we expect from the global level, as usual, is advocacy so that we can be able to have the highest level of leadership being engaged and committing to supporting the actions, especially from government. We want to see more funding coming from government. And then the technical team will be involved in ensuring that we put together the required information to support our commitments. That is how we are planning to move forward. And any support from global level and other partners will be very useful to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gladys, for your very clear message. Really great to understand that 26 counties in Kenya are actually being brought together for making commitments. You have a clear plan, you have costed food security and nutrition plan, and you are looking for support for advocacy. So very clear. Thank you so much for sharing your remarks. With that, let me move on to Dr. Muhammad Abdi Farha, Advisor on Social Sector, National Coordinator for Scaling Up Nutrition, Office of the Prime Minister, Federal Republic of Somalia, to take the floor and share your thoughts. Over to you, Dr. Farha. Looks like, Dr. Farha, you are still on mute. We can see you online, but you appear to be muted. Can you hear us, Dr. Farha?
Yes, and so I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, Dr. Farha. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to have a speech in this important occasion. I'm called Dr. Farah. I am the SAN focal point for Somalia. At the same time, I am advising the Office of the Prime Minister and, on policy development for social sector, particularly health and nutrition. I'm very delighted to deliver what Somalia is doing as far as nutrition is concerned. I think many of you are aware of that Somalia made the highest commitment for nutrition because the pioneer and the champion person for nutrition in Somalia is the Prime Minister every time. And all the successive prime ministers, starting from the fifth one, all of them had renewed that commitment. and have taken the leadership to lead nutrition and be the champion for the country. So the Office of the Prime Minister is actually called the Champion Office for Nutrition in Somalia. Having said that, and the other political commitment that Somalia made is that when we were developing the National Development Plan, the one which was passed number 8 and 9, in both of them, the government really made highest commitment by creating a separate chapter for nutrition and putting very important indicators to be achieved in those national development plans, making nutrition to the highest level of integration into the government plan, as well as the sectoral plans that agriculture, health, education, and all of them have been making highest commitments. For example, the agricultural strategy for the country has been reviewed to prioritize nutrition, and Ministry of Education has been reviewing all curriculums to include nutrition into the higher education and also the lower education of the country. School feeding programs were being formulated in assistance with the Ministry of Education and the SAN Secretariat that sits in the Office of the Prime Minister with the support of the partners and donors. So it looks like from sectoral wise and from the overall Office of the Prime Minister, nutrition was a commitment that the government had focused on was the legislative part of the of nutrition. In 2019, we were able to form an independent subcommittee in the 9th Parliament, which is called Food Security and Nutrition Subcommittee. And that subcommittee was the first time ever established for Somalia, and takes equal weight as other subcommittees in economy, foreign affairs, security, and all that. And nutrition become now a priority also for the legislative part of the country. And the Speaker of the Parliament himself led that initiative with the support of the Office of Prime Minister and the SAN Secretariat. And once we have achieved that, and the same subcommittee was able to mention nutrition the first time in the budget, national budget, and we were able to increase the budgetary allocation for nutrition from 0 to 6% in 3 sectors, which is health, agriculture, and livestock, and which are very important for food production in the country. And these were led by and policies that we put together. I hope Ms. Khidda is here, and she participated with us last month when we launched the Common Results Framework or the Somali Multi-Sectoral Nutrition Strategy, which even MQ San really had technically supported in bringing it up and putting it together. That strategy, which you call now Somali Multi-Sectoral Nutrition Strategy, had been costed, and plan which has the estimated cost and has up to 6 to 7 objectives to be achieved, which is multi-sectoral in nature, including even the humanitarian development and taking into consideration of the fragility that the country is in. And that strategy had been launched really, and it's now live and up. And I hope that implementation will start very soon with the support of donors and their generosity. We also launched the certification strategy, which also costed the strategy of 5 years, and it really tackles more on ways of dealing with hidden malnutrition, which is very common in Somalia. The last micronutrient survey, which has just been completed, indicated that iron deficiency and anemia were really in public health significant, and for age groups of children less than 6 months, 6 years, and reproductive age and a woman and also menopausal women. All of those are shown that anemia was a very significant and public health issue, as well as vitamin A deficiency, which is very high in years old and below. So that makes necessary for us to consider ways of combating that through a market approach, which it means that only supplementation at facility level could not really handle the case. It has been developed to look at ways of fortifying and domestically available foods and using those foods as vehicle to take those nutrients into those families who consume them. So that strategy has been launched today. In fact, I'm happy to join you after I've just launched it, and it has been really a well-calculated, at the same time costed strategy for food fortification, looking at all levels of fortification, including home-based fortifications, small industry, and hello?
We can hear you, Dr. Farah.
Okay,
Please carry on.
Yeah, including all levels of fortifications, home fortification, and small-scale industries and large industries, including policies, legislations that are needed to put in place, and then thinking of a way of biodiversifying or biofortification, which has really been tried in one of the states now, but still on trial, and particularly in Baidawa town, and some of the agencies led by UNICEF were trying to do a kind of homegrown food fortification through biofortifications and systems and technologies. And having mentioned all this, in fact, we are also working on ways of reaching everybody and bringing all the stakeholders together. And we were able to nominate EU to be a donor convener for Somalia, and I'm happy that on 23rd, the first donor meeting for Somalia on nutrition had taken place. Previously, it used to be together with health and others, but now we have an independent committee and an independent group of donors who are interested in nutrition. And these are really the commitments, and that's why we are following up, and we are continuing to make best efforts for us to reach everybody. We have all the networks up, but still we are lagging behind because all those strategies which are put in place seem to be not implemented at any one time. And this makes it difficult for the country and to alone try to make a commitment and put all policies and plans in place and create highest commitment from the government, but still having not implemented those nicely written and well thought strategies is really a setback to us. And Somalia would really like to get the support of the donors, the support of others, to be able to implement those strategies, which will really give us a very good impact. And in addition to that, we also did important surveys and studies, including field nutrient gap analysis, which had ended up producing prioritized interventions, which have been thought to be the best, but still need to be implemented. I know I've taken more time. Sorry for doing that. And I want to conclude to thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. I'm also a member of the Global Report stakeholders, and I also sit other forums. But thank you very much for listening. Any questions, and I'll be ready to comment on that. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Farha, for letting us know there is so much going on in Somalia and the commitment of Somalian government. And also, I'm sure everybody would be delighted to hear that you have been able to get the budget allocations for nutrition up to 6% when they were none. But at the same time, the challenges of implementation, which is really important. Thank you for those comments. We will get back if there are questions. So we have two more government colleagues from Uganda. We have Ms. Maureen Mukumu Bakunzi, Assistant Commissioner for Policy Implementation and Coordination, and Dr. George Kembo, Sun Focal Point and Director of the Food and Nutrition Council, Zimbabwe. So let me move on to Ms. Maureen for your comments. Over to you.
Hello there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Facilitator, Dr. Renata, our coordinator, dear coordinator, thank you for having me in this meeting. I'll just share briefly the experience of Uganda. In terms of Uganda, seeing as we are in this year of action towards nutrition and midway of the decade of action, in Uganda, we are just on the first Uganda Nutrition Action Plan, which we are now developing. We have passed the second one. We were among the first countries to embrace the multi-sectoral approach towards nutrition. So in this year of action, we are aiming to functionalize actual multi-sectoral approach to nutrition, making it fully operational. Under the Nutrition Action Plan 1, we set up governance structures up to the local level. We have sectoral coordination committees, which are multi-sectoral for nutrition, and district and local government nutrition coordination committees. So just passed the second Nutrition Action Plan, and we are aiming, but are actually action plans that are multi-sectoral in nature, that we have with clear nutrition monitoring and evaluation frameworks based on the overall monitoring and evaluation action plan for the UNAP, the national plan. Now, we have done this through a few avenues, well mainstreamed and included in the overall national development plan, which is going to run from 2021 to 2025. And we have made sure that there is a high level target on stunting for this. We have made some progress on stunting, but we are not where we want to be. Work is still ongoing. According to our last UDHS, anemia remains a big challenge. So it's affecting the women and children in our country. And we are looking at the nutrition sensitive interventions that we can strengthen that will reach this group, in addition to the nutrition specific interventions that we are having. We have carried out the financial tracking for nutrition, which has established that over 60 to 70% of nutrition sensitive resources in the national budget are actually going nutrition sensitive interventions, but we want to see how this can be strengthened. The food lens, we are looking at the food systems and adding value across the food system from farm to fork to ensure that at the household level, there's access to enough food, nutritious food, but also enough number of meals, because the indicators on meals are at a household level and the basic number of meals is not being achieved yet. Now, we are one of the countries implementing the National Information Platform for Nutrition, the NIPIN, in partnership supported by the European Union. And through our National Statistics Office, the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, which is partnering with Office of the Prime Minister, we are working to ensure the utilization, management, and of data for nutrition. We have set up the repository, National Repository for Nutrition. We've done a lot of cleaning of all the information that comes from the different surveys to ensure that it is standardized and can be utilized. We are coming up with knowledge products that can communicate issues of nutrition based on the reviews and secondary reviews that we are doing of existing data. We would like, in the coming year, and under the dispensation of the National Development Plan 3 and the second Uganda Nutrition Action Plan, strengthen reporting. We are coming up with, we have 11 outcome indicators for the second Nutrition Action Plan, and we want to strengthen reporting from the local level to the center so that we can strengthen with evidence the element of advocacy at all levels and strengthen policy and planning for nutrition. We are operationalizing the SUN platforms. With support from World Food Programme, we are operationalizing the business network to ensure that in line with the National Development Plan aspirations, the private sector is fully on board in ensuring that our targets as government are achieved and the relevant policies are being implemented. The kind of support that we would hope to get, we've also passed, government has developed the National Zero Hunger Strategy, which is a 10-year framework supposed to take us to 10 years anyway. 10 years framework that's being developed by the Prime Minister, which is going now to guide the elements of food safety, food security, and nutrition to ensure that it's achieved and taken forward. In terms of the kind of support that we look to, it would be very helpful and meaningful if we could learn through you, our partners, avenues of South-South cooperation, where our sister countries are doing very well, and we learn from them. I think that would be very, very good for us, because then many countries are similar in many ways, and where they're succeeding, perhaps we could learn a thing or two. Advocacy, just like my sister Gladys, remains an issue, and also making the multi-sector approach meaningful so that it's visible and functional, I think remains a challenge. Sorry if I've gone on for too long. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bakunzi, for highlighting key messages. Excited to hear that Uganda is moving forward with operationalization of the plan that you have. Some platforms are being operationalized, but your South-to-South cooperation message is well noted, and something that Dr. Farah also mentioned, anemia still remains a problem. So with that message, I would like to pass on the floor to Dr. George Kembo, Sun Focal Point and Director of the Food and Nutrition Council, Zimbabwe. Over to you, Dr. George.
Thank you so much. Greetings from the paradise of Zimbabwe. That's a very good opportunity to share our experience as a country. They have also made an effort to attend. Zimbabwe remains committed to ensure that we address food and nutrition security in its multi-sectorial nature, and also attend the multifaceted issues that affect the broader population. So we believe that one of our cornerstones is to maintain political momentum in the desire to address food and nutrition. We have also continued securing our political commitment as a measure of how the country will also assess its ability to move towards improvement of people's life. As you look at the quality of life, you know, the different food dimensions are also critical indicators to talk about the quality of life. Our constitution has also been recognized and remain in place with the nutrition being part of it. We are also excited that despite the change in government, the National Food and Nutrition Security Policy remained the reference document in pushing the multi-sectorialism that is advocated for within the country. We recently have developed the new 5-year strategic plan, and we are excited that food and nutrition is also one of the second thematic area which the government is going to focus on in the next 5 years. And a good example is within the National Development Strategy. We have also seen nutrition sensitive being critical and being also key in determining agriculture activities. The current agriculture programs have also, agriculture is pushing the agenda. We are also aware and we respect the multi-sectorialism, and we want to also take this opportunity to acknowledge that we also are fully aware that UNICEF remains one of the movers and motivators to address nutrition. We have received support for the development of the National Multi-Sectorial Food and Nutrition Strategy, which is an implementation matrix of how we are going to implement thematic number 2 of the food and nutrition in the national development strategy. So you want to expand it, you want to make it easier for everyone to implement it. So through the support of UNICEF and the REACH support, we are developing the multi-sectorial food and nutrition strategy, which is going to be the reference document in the next 5 years. We are also excited with the number of nutrition sensitive programming, especially the recent National Agriculture Policy Framework, which is more nutrition sensitive. And because we believe that agriculture can bring 4 times the benefits of developing the economy. So if we embed nutrition within the agriculture development arena, we are sure and we are guaranteed that we will take the nutrition agenda forward. But we also remain sensitive and people-centered and community-centered, that we need to come up with multi-sectorial structures where at the lowest level, the community becomes masters of their destiny in addressing the multi-sectorialism of food and nutrition security issues. So in that regard, our multi-sectorial food and nutrition structure are well-functioning, well-coordinated, and they've been very helpful during the times of COVID, because there is the movement restrictions. We had decentralized structures that are community-centered, that the communities are part of the solution of the problems. Our institutional structures are working very well. We have also gone further because we know in these kinds of the healthy-related shocks, climate-related shocks, the importance of information in decision-making becomes critical. We continue building on evidence-based programming, and we are also continuing undertaking annual assessment to measure the food and nutrition security situation, especially nutrition. So through the support and partnership of UNICEF and the Ministry of Health, they have trained the local communities to measure their children's homework. So you can also begin to respect the COVID restrictions, but you are still able to get nutrition data from the community and from the mothers. So that's a very good improvement, and we are excited with that. We are moving towards development of a dashboard, which we are going to use to measure and track ourselves in terms of how we are faring in addressing the nutrition issues. This dashboard is developed in synergy with our SANREP, the academia, which are producing very interesting technical papers to try and bring the innovation strength. We are also looking at edible insects. We also have the research and the academia having a number of funded programs from the international community, from the universities, looking at the consumption of edible insects and the micronutrient dimension within the edible insects in Zimbabwe. We are excited that the business community has started to be active and alive, and we want to acknowledge that the combination of support from our development partners is helping in upscaling the business network. Our desire is to ensure tracking of investment in nutrition. We have continued and we have expanded our engagement with parliamentarians to ensure that we strengthen the citizen accountability and seek the necessary investment towards nutrition. And that has seen us also getting some significant funding. We have also gone into knowledge management in the area of nutrition, using our decentralized food and nutrition structures from the community level. And we are excited that we are beginning to appreciate the vast knowledge that are coming from the community in terms of them appreciating the problem they are facing and also offering them localized recommendation or action to implement. So our knowledge management system is working and is in the district, and we begin to get opportunities for exchange, review meetings, and we have brought in the local leadership, traditional leaders and chiefs. But however, as we plan and go toward the next year, we still seek, and I want to acknowledge our civil society has been very active, and we have strengthened our synergetic relationship and working together to an extent that we appreciate each other. They bring the complementary aspect. But we still need capacity support in the area of financial tracking, in-country financial tracking of commitments, especially the dichotomy around the nutrition sensitive programming. To what extent are you able to account for it without double counting from the agriculture perspective? So these are the areas that we want to invest in. We want to be supported in those areas.
Thank you so much, Dr. George.
Having said that,
Dr. George, sorry, you are breaking up. We need to move
committed
on.
as a country, and we will support it. I was done.
Thank
I'm
you so
done.
much, Dr. George. You were breaking up, so it was difficult to say. Thank you so much for your comments. It's really important to take the note that you mentioned that the sectoral implementation needs to go to the community level, and you are able to manage that. That is really important. And you mentioned about partnership with UNICEF, which is a great segue for us to invite our next speaker. As you all know, the UN agencies have a big role to play supporting governments, and we look forward to hearing from Mr. Fode Nadiaye and their N4G commitment plans in Rwanda. Over to you, Mr. Nadiaye.
Thank you very much, moderator, and greetings from Rwanda. First of all, I want to say that the government has a clear plan. They even have set up a new agency for early childhood development that is also looking at this important aspect of nutrition. They have this cross-sectoral approach that is bringing together various government agencies and, of course, UN and as such. So I will just elaborate a little bit on what the UN Nutrition for Rwanda is doing. As you know, this is the new collaboration platform. And the latest, the Rwanda DHS highlighted many factors impacting nutrition. Child stunting, 33% remain high, despite a remarkably high rate of exclusive breastfeeding during the first 6 months of life. However, a low proportion of infants 6 to 33 months are receiving a minimum acceptable diet. Overweight has surpassed wasting among under 5s, which is still very low. This underscores the importance of analyzing jointly, challenging our convention and innovation to better understand the problem, act efficiently and effectively in synergies. And that's what we are trying to do to achieve shared goals. First, FAO, IFAD, UNICEF, WFP, and WHO have joined forces for more coherence and coordination through the UN Nutrition Platform, chaired by WFP, supported by a neutral facilitator. As an active member of Rwanda multi-stakeholder platform, UN Nutrition also, with its collective technical expertise, assists the government in mobilizing stakeholders, capitalizing on the existing guidance and evidence-based policies and strategies. We also technically support the Sun government focal point. Of course, we have achieved some aspects like the development of food-based dietary guidelines and a social and behavior change communication strategy for integrated early childhood development, nutrition and WASH, and the rollout of the stunting free village model, which is excellent because it has been scaled up nationwide, tackling nutrition from different angles. Of course, COVID-19 hit and had many disruptions on food supply, essential nutrition, commodities, loss of job, including in the informal sector, rise of food prices, and of course, it has impacting the ability to access nutritious food and also have negative impact on health services. But related to school feeding, also closure have increased the risk for children to develop undernutrition. Women also, often key food providers disproportionately affected, are facing job losses and increasing domestic tasks. So what we have done, we have set up as UN a multifaceted UN response aligned with the national COVID-19 plan. This includes joint advocacy on the links between COVID and nutrition and support to the government. For example, adaptation to enable continuity of nutrition services through growth monitoring, promotion, and the management of acute malnutrition cases. Nutrition communication material, such as the promotion of breastfeeding and food safety. An integrated national nutrition surveillance and provision safeguarding appropriate infant and young child feeding and nutritional care into the COVID-19 treatment guidelines. Before going and concluding on the aspect of what concrete action we should be taking more. We had a very good tradition of joint programming. And since 2013, we have a joint program, UN joint program on nutrition, facilitated by RICH and based on the inventory exercise we have carried out in 2016, 2017. It is supported by the Swiss Development Corporation, and we are working with all the ministries, agriculture, health, education, local government, gender and family promotion, and the National Childhood Development Agency to enhance cross-sectoral linkages, as well as strengthen the capacity and system for the delivery of quality nutrition. I must praise the government for doing two things. 83% of their investment in nutrition are from their budget. And despite the issue of COVID, they have scaled up the school feeding program across pre-primary, primary, and secondary from 640,000 to 3.3 million. And of course, the UN supported the development of various tools, including money modeling of nutritious school meals, while also encouraging the use of locally sourced foods. Nutrition also is integrated into our cooperation framework that is a 5-year plan for UN. Let me conclude by saying that really 2021 offers tremendous opportunities with both the Nutrition for Growth, but also the Food System Summit. In addition to helping the government make this Nutrition for Growth commitment, as UNRC, I'm keen to push the UN nutrition both as a collective and as individual agencies to follow suit with the Joint Nutrition Action Framework. I will continue also to bring policymakers, other government officials, and stakeholders, seeing more that nutrition is linked to all the SDGs, other human rights, and in building human capital for development. The nutrition decade will be opportune to boost more political commitment. I will also bring in more agencies without presence, like ILO, working on jobs and labor. To conclude, I think we need unconventional method, operational innovation, nutrition financing reform, and increasing cross-sectoral nutrition-sensitive investment, both nationally, locally, and globally, and involvement of communities, civil societies, and private sector. And I'm uniquely placed to enhance this joint programming. Assistance needed to ensure a life cycle approach, clear results monitoring and effective management of nutrition data, increase financial resources for the underfunded joint program on nutrition. On that note, I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nadiai, for your very bold message about for us being unconventional, creative, about how we tackle nutrition, and also praising the government that they are in the driving seat. Thank you so much for those messages. Moving on, I'm sure you all would agree that youth play a critical role in advocacy and mobilization. Any action from policymakers this year will have an impact on youth in the East and Southern Africa region for years to come. We have invited Ms. Jane Napais Lakinza from Kenya to share her views. Over to you, Jane.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Monica. It's a pleasure to be here today, and maybe to start off on
Sorry, Jane, we are losing you.
Oh, sorry. Like Monica said, my name is Jane Napais. I'm a youth leader for nutrition, also working with the children. Currently, my action that I'm taking to advance the nutrition agenda is that as a youth advocate, I'm working closely with the local NGOs as a way of fostering partnership to advocate the issue of adolescent nutrition, because currently much of the focus is on reproductive health, sidelining the adolescent nutrition. And most importantly, one of my key activities is also collaborating with the Ministry of Education in bringing nutrition education to schools through existing health clubs as a way of creating nutrition awareness. Because with this, there's a little information for the adolescents and the youths concerning adolescent nutrition. So that's why my passion is to be able to address the issue of intergenerational cycle of malnutrition, to be able to help these adolescents, to mentor them on adolescent nutrition, so that you can be able to work closely. At the end of the day, we all speak nutrition language. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jane. It was wonderful to see you as well. And thanks for everything you are doing to promote nutrition and adolescent nutrition. So before we move forward, I just wanted to basically take a pause here and pass on the mic to Dr. Micah to basically, if we have any questions that we want to address right now. So Renata, would you like to take the floor at this point? Over to you.
Thank you, Monica. And thank you, everybody, of course, for sharing your plans. And it's really inspiring and motivating to hear all this great effort and coordination that is currently underway. So I'm really confident that this will definitely be the year of action on nutrition. And obviously, as you've highlighted, this is not an easy task and takes a lot of hard work as well as overcoming potential obstacles. As mentioned by esteemed panelists, engaging with the highest levels of leadership, maintaining political will, and securing resources are some of the key challenges I identified. Given the work that we will be doing, GNR will be doing in the year of action to develop the nutrition accountability framework and the resources we have already secured, it would be great to understand your needs in relation to the work that we will be moving forward. So what type of support would you like to see from the Global Nutrition Report, either in addition to what was already outlined or anything else, I guess, to help you advance the nutrition agenda and make strong commitments? Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Renata. So moving on, private sector is also here with us today. They have an important role to play when it comes to fighting malnutrition. I would now like to invite Mr. Uduak Igbeka, Sun Business Network Regional Manager, Africa, and Mr. Abel Dabola, Sun Business Network Coordinator, Mozambique, to hear their perspectives. Thank you to both of you for joining. So over to you, Mr. Uduak.
Hi, thank you for having me. No, that's fine.
My apologies.
No problem. So as the Sun Business Network, engaging with private sector across the Africa region, we are trying as much as possible to ensure that we can educate the private sector on the role that they have to play in contributing to improved nutrition. We have embarked on various exercises on nutrition training, especially for SMEs. Our membership is predominantly made up of SMEs who have very limited understanding of nutrition. We have also played an advocacy role in linking public-private partnerships to ensure that in the development of relevant documents such as nutrition action plans, it's an inclusive process that includes the private sector. We are continuously advocating for this at the national and subnational levels in the countries where we operate. We also try to highlight, especially to non-food sector businesses, what they can do that can have an impact on nutrition. And this is where workforce nutrition comes into play, because non-food sector businesses have access to human capital in the form of their workforce. They can engage in activities around supporting consistent breastfeeding at the end of maternity leave for working mothers. They can also provide nutrition education to their workforce. We also have members who have already made commitments to improve nutrition as part of the process of becoming members of the Sun Business Network. And we're supporting them now to be able to align those commitments with the N4G commitments and to educate them on what the Responsible Business Pledge is all about and to get them to be signatories to that Responsible Business Pledge towards the Tokyo Summit. I think my colleague Abel could also provide additional insights. He's the coordinator for the Sun Business Network in Mozambique. Over to you, Abel.
Thank you so much. Well, as far as concerns to Sun Business Network Mozambique, we have engaged about 115 members, all private companies. And as Woodworker said, our major goal is to demonstrate the contribution and impact of the private sector toward the national nutrition agenda. Well, having most of our members as SMEs, we have seen that the knowledge about nutrition is almost inexistent. And what happened, in fact, is that most of the business just trade food products without any knowledge about even the nutritious value of the food products that they sell or they trade. So what we've been doing, as Woodwork mentioned, in terms of assistance to this private sector is training and capacity building, mostly in subjects, business-related subjects, but we do incorporate nutritious orientation for the private sector. And this is well done because we have succeeded in this area because most of the private sector companies have now committed to some of the smart global commitments. In Mozambique, for instance, we have assessed the business last year, and we found out that there are 4 categories of commitments that the company have committed to. One being the improvement of quality, food safety of the products. The other one is stabilizing the prices, meaning that they understand now that that's a key point, especially for low-incomers. To access the products, they need to have capacity to do so. And so by stabilizing the markets and the products of the markets, that's one contribution that they can do. The other one is the workplace nutrition. As Woodwork mentioned, most of those companies not involved directly with the food products or food systems in itself, they tend to stop the engagement with the nutrition agenda. So the workplace is a great entry point for them to educate their labor force while also investing toward this new avenue for them. The other commitment that we have seen as a common here is the commitment to the responsible marketing of food products. And here is where the companies have been requesting major support from us because it's a new avenue. While for the private sector, marketing a product is just a matter of putting the product out there and communicating about the price and the product positioning. With the nutrition, through the nutritional lens, they need also to communicate values such as nutritional value of the product, as well as, let's say, the shelf life of the products, and so on. So for us, the commitment of the private sector in Mozambique still at the early stage. We do need a lot of support, especially technical support for the private sector. As you all know, SMEs all over the world, they need financial support, but we understand that financial support is just an entry point to guarantee that we will have the appropriate technical assistance to help this private sector to advance nutrition in Mozambique. So this is what I can share for now. There are several challenges across the country, and I believe across Africa for all SMEs and SBNs. But in Mozambique particularly, one of the major challenges is the poor connectivity across the country, especially nowadays where the interconnections using the social networks and other tools or IT tools are used to advance the business in the context of the nutrition. So communication advocacy is somehow limited by these actual conditions of communication. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Uduak and Mr. Abel, for your comments. Very clear. And thank you for highlighting very clear 4 categories of kind of commitments that private sector can actually make, and the challenges that you face. It would be really nice to hear more challenges that can be supported by the GNR or the Sun Movement Secretariat, and take a note of that. So moving on, last but not the least, we are also joined today by our colleagues from civil society and the donor community. Before we open the floor to questions from the audience, I would like to invite Mr. Matthews Muhuru from Civil Society Network Zambia, and Tamina Mukumbu, Mr. Mukumbu, Nutrition Coordinator, USAID Tanzania, to share their views. Over to you, Mr. Matthews.
Thank you very much, moderator. I want to start by just introducing myself. My name is Matthews Muru. I'm the country coordinator for the Civil Society Scaling Up Nutrition Alliance in Zambia. But at the same time, I'm also the chair for the Eastern Southern Africa Civil Society Network. So you might know that, the civil society network has, regionalized just to better support the different country alliances that would be in different areas. So yeah, I should also mention that, the Zambia Civil Society Alliance was among the first, civil society alliances that had made, commitments at the 2013 Nutrition for Growth Summit. And one of our biggest commitments was to raise the profile of nutrition on the National Development Agenda. And I'm glad that we've really stayed true to this commitment. For those of you that might follow our Twitter handles, our social media platforms, as well as, where some of our stories and activities are shared, you would really see that, we are doing that quite well. So just looking at 2021, 2021 is an important year for the Eastern Southern Africa Civil Society Network, and we are really taking this seriously to ensure that, we lobby and advocate for commitments from all the ESA governments. And by ESA, I mean the Eastern Southern Africa, just Eastern Southern Africa. So as a first step, which is part of our strategy as the Eastern Southern Africa Civil Society Network, to really make sure that, we are making commitments that are not repetitive, as well as also commitments that are smart enough, is what we've done is taking stock of the previous commitments that were made by both our governments as well as some of the civil society organizations within our region, so that we review, the progress that could have been made as a starting point. So the second step that we've also done is trying to see how we would align, our commitments as well as our lobby efforts, with the ESA priorities. So I'll just mention some of the priorities that we really feel, are really key. So if you look at domestic financing to nutrition, for example, you'd notice that most of the countries in Eastern Southern Africa have not really been doing well. The bulk of financing of nutrition intervention lies with the donors. And I can speak for Zambia, for example, where we know that over 90% of all the funding that goes to nutrition, is coming from the donor community. It's a picture that we're trying to change. And as a way of, pushing the domestic financing agenda, one of the actions that we take on an annual basis is to launch a regional budget analysis report, of which the latest regional budget analysis report was just launched in December. And we are very grateful to the SMS, the Sun Civil Society Secretariat in London, as well as to Together, who launched this particular document with us. So this document becomes a tool that we use, to share with our governments, to show them how not good they will be faring at that particular point, and just to convince them to start allocating more financing to nutrition. So the other, priority area is cultivating political commitment. So we take, with keen interest, the political activities that will be happening in countries. So I can give an example for a country like Malawi, which had elections just in 2020, the Civil Society Alliance worked tirelessly to ensure that the political parties that were vying for political office, all had nutrition high on the agenda, something that helped them, see a budgetary increase, just once the new government was moved from less than 0% of their financing to nutrition, go all the way to above 3%, so which was quite commendable. Also, Zambia, 2021 is our election year, so we've taken a lot of steps just to ensure that, we make sure that all the political aspirants, the political parties, have clear, plans of what they would do differently that would change the nutrition situation, as well as, just committing that, nutrition remains high on their agenda. The third, area that I can talk about is just lobbying for full coverage of, high impact nutrition intervention. So it's quite sad that, most of the countries, you'd realize that when it comes to coverage of high impact interventions, some of them are actually below 50%. So this is what, as a regional network, we are lobbying for, so that we ensure that, as part of their commitments, governments can show clearly how they're going to change, this coverage situation, and they make sure that nobody is being left behind. And I think the last submission that I can also make is just the fact that, youth have become a very, very important part of our work in East and Southern Africa. So we're working very closely with the youth leaders for nutrition, so that we can, support them to amplify, the youth voices for adolescent nutrition and other areas that the youth see fit. And I'm glad that Jen, who's also part of our, regional support, was actually on this call just to amplify that. Maybe just looking at the last part of, the submission, which speaks to the kind of support that the civil society would need to really make sure that, our efforts and our activities to cultivate, smart commitments, towards the N4G agenda. I must mention that civil society alliances within the East and Southern Africa are actually, the most vulnerable network. We've seen that, a number of them, if they're not getting support from, the global level, there's very little, just very little desire by the donor networks within the countries to support our efforts, regardless of how, the important steps that we make. So this really has to change, and we are, appealing to the SMS to see how they can engage with different networks at country level to see how, the civil society work can be supported to remain high on the agenda, and not really demoralize, the efforts or undermine some of the work that we've been doing. So I think with that, I submit, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matthew, for highlighting importance of budget analysis for advocacy, involvement of the youth leaders, and I'm sure the Secretariat is listening for the support you just highlighted at the end of your conversation. I would like to invite Ms. Tamina Mukumba for your thoughts. Over to you.
Thank you, Monica, and hello, everyone. My name is Tamina Mukumba. I'm the Nutrition Coordinator for USAID Tanzania, but also co-convener of the Sun Donor Network here in Tanzania. In terms of what actions Tanzania is taking to advance the nutrition agenda, I'll start by saying that this is an exciting year for Tanzania, as we will soon begin development of our second National Multi-Sectoral Nutrition Action Plan, referred to as MNAP2, along with its Common Results, Resources and Accountability Framework, CRAF, which will guide implementation of nutrition activities for 5 years, and that is from 2021 to 2026. The development of this plan will be informed and aligned with the national, regional, and global targets, but also commitments, several commitments regarding nutrition, as well as lessons from reviews, evaluations conducted during implementation of the current MNAP. Development partners, we as development partners are working very closely with the government of Tanzania, and particularly the Prime Minister's Office and Tanzania Food and Nutrition Center to support development of this plan. And through our Development Partners Group on Nutrition, we have managed to mobilize funding resources required to support development of MNAP, but also partners have committed to provide technical support throughout the process and as needed. Along with development of MNAP too, the government of Tanzania, in collaboration with development partners, are in the process of developing a domestic resource mobilization strategy to support MNAP2 implementation, and this is under the leadership of Prime Minister's Office. The strategy will focus on public funds, putting the government at the driver's seat, but again, working hand in hand with its supporters, and that is development partners in nutrition. In preparation for the Tokyo Nutrition for Growth Summit, the Prime Minister's Office will soon call for a stakeholders meeting to kickstart the process towards a formulation of the smart commitments that we'll be making as a country, and then proceed from there. Maybe to touch on the assistance that we might need to make progress on nutrition, I would say that any support towards development of MNAP2, domestic resource mobilization strategy, and we will be reaching out to the SAN Secretariat, including the Global Nutrition Report team, with specific asks, and it is our hope that you'll be able to link us with the required resources. And that is all from me in the interest of time. Thank you. Back to you, Monica.
Thank you so much, Tamina. That was very helpful and exciting to hear that Prime Minister is driving the formulation of commitment with the stakeholders. Thank you so much for that. I would like to thank all the esteemed speakers, and you have shared really rich thoughts. So let me pose the question back again and start this discussion. And I would like the speakers to share their thoughts as well, and as well as participants who are listening. So would you like to elaborate on challenges and barriers that you are facing currently in making commitments? And what are those? And to all the speakers who have already spoken, please feel free to ask questions to each other as well. Now you have heard everybody, and anything that you heard that can help you make commitment, or challenges that you are facing in making commitments. So I would like to open the floor for the speakers right now to ask questions to each other, and also to participants if you would like to pose these questions. So over to speakers and the participants. We heard that Tanzania is driving, like Prime Minister's Office is driving the commitment making. Anybody else from the speakers would like to share how their process is moving on in terms of making commitments? Over to you, Heda. Looks like you want to share
something. Thank you very much, because Monica, I'm listening, and it's exciting to hear so many people from the country perspective just zooming in their ambitions, but also their progress and their challenges. Let's not forget that most of the countries are still in the middle of the impact of the COVID crisis, and that is still hitting hard. My invitation would be proud of your progress and where you stand. Make sure that your government is really behind you and listening to the different contributions. The government is very often committed. let us know through the networks, through the country liaison team, through your focal points, if the government is not really committed and need to receive a letter from me or an invitation to step up. And we will do whatever we can to make tailor-made contributions to the country level. On fundraising, Jean-Sébastien, but also Zach and others are more than ready, and also the networks, I'm quite sure, to support you in doing the budget tracking. And once a government has made a commitment to increase domestic investments in nutrition, we all stand behind you to make sure that donors from outside and other investors like funds and foundations, etc., are aligning behind your government. This is crucial. At the same time, we all know that it's difficult to get donors and other investors in line, but it is a must if we are to build forward better, make concrete commitments at the Food System Summit and the N4G, and then make the commitments really happening at the country level. And we will stand next to you or behind you and work with all that is in us to support you to make this happen. It's one of the biggest challenges, to get enough funding and to get aligned funding and to transfer the funding into investments and scaling up nutrition. So this is what I wanted to say, but I would like to take the floor also, Monica, to tell everybody how proud I am of your strong commitments to not only make, but also keep nutrition and nutritional investments as a priority. Thanks.
Absolutely, so much, Herda, for all your support that you provide. I noticed a couple of comments in the chat. Deborah.
Yes, Monica, I can read it for you because you are facilitating. We do have a question from Robert to all. How can each country ensure that smart commitments are not only made, but actually implemented once they're made? Can we ensure that there is an accountability framework attached to smart commitments? And I think this is a great question for really any of the speakers, I think, could speak to this. So whoever would like to take the floor, whether Dr. Renata from the GNR or government colleagues or others, please do. Thank you. And Robert, I'm not sure where you're from because I didn't see it in the chat box, but thank you for asking this question.
Can I come in here regarding the work that the Sun Business Network does? So within the network, we support our members to be able to smarten the commitments that they have made. And what Robert has flagged is something that I was actually going to flag as a challenge because I mean, the countries are large, the numbers of businesses are huge. And so it's one thing to say that you expect that businesses will self-report on the achievements that they've made, but then you also require the resources to validate what they have said. You may or may not be in a position to take them at leap, to take them at their word. There needs to be some resources built into being able to validate that information and ensure that what is being reported as results is actually valid. And that's where some additional support could be useful.
And if I may also come in, Monica, yes, these are great points and remarks. As part of the work that the Global Nutrition Report will be doing in leading and developing a global nutrition accountability framework, obviously that would become key, but meaning that any commitment that is put forward, then we would require that the commitment making entity reports on their progress, and then we would assess that progress also as compared to other commitments that are being put forward. However, yes, internally, whatever is being reported to us, it will need to be validated. So that will require internal resources to be able to support, and what is being reported, let's say, to the Global Nutrition Report and the Nutritional Accountability Framework is accurate, and it does reflect true progress that has been made.
Hello, can I respond to Robert's question a little bit?
Please go ahead, Maureen.
This is Maureen. Thank you, Robert, for this question. I think for our case in Uganda, and Robert is from World Food Program in Uganda. In our case, I think one key issue is to ensure that whatever commitments we make for the Nutrition for Growth undertaking, they should not be detached from the mainstream indicators or results that we are seeking to achieve in our other overall frameworks. For example, we have ensured that the Uganda Nutrition Action Plan 2, commonly known as UNAP, which we have done, the indicators we are tracking translate from the indicators that are in the National Development Plan. And now, as we go towards the program-based approach under the National Development Plan 3, we are ensuring that the same indicators now permeate into the program, the PIAPs, what we call the PIAPs, the Program Implementation Action Plan. And when the districts are making the district nutrition action plans, this should also be aligned, well aligned. So I think to ensure that whatever commitments we come up with, we are in a position to work towards them. We've got to ensure that we sustain and embed the principle of alignment so that we can work for a common end. That's my little take on Robert's question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maureen, for your response. So Jane wants to come in to share her thoughts, and then we will move on to hear the closing remarks from Mr. James. Over to you, Jane.
Thank you so much, Monica. For me, maybe what I can say, there are instances that I can speak on behalf of other youth leaders is that from my point of view, like currently in Kenya, it shows that the country is on course, that is meeting the stunting targets, which is currently at 26.2. In my opinion, this figure is largely contributed by many adolescents getting pregnant with poor nutrition care, leading to, like what I've said, the intergenerational cycle of malnutrition. And therefore, there is need for nutrition-specific investment and not forgetting working closely with these youths as we prepare for N4G Summit moving forward. And I'm happy that the Sun Focal Point was also able to mention the issue of nutrition-specific investment. And if you allow me, if she can be able to assist me on one of the biggest challenges that, in my point of view as a youth leader, is the issue of bureaucracy, where, for instance, someone has an idea when before someone have to able to take over a campaign or to put a policy to be able to work, it has to take a lengthy procedures to be able to seek approvals and consent, causing time delays. Maybe I put it to other panelists to be able to share maybe their views on how to go about it. And also when he's speaking about the misappropriation of government, giving priority to other political and other agendas, even though the country is in the recovery phase of COVID-19. So for me, I feel someone can be able to give like the best solution for this, because I feel like that is the biggest challenge that is driving us back to achieving ending malnutrition in all its forms. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jane, for your very important question. And looking at the clock, I'm wondering if we want to take this question now or park this for a little bit and come back to it after we hear the closing remarks. So why don't, so we have, it seems like there are a couple of more questions from the audience as well. So Jane, let's park this question for a little bit. And before we conclude this roundtable, I would like to welcome Mr. James Kingory, Regional Nutrition Advisor for Southern Africa, World Food Program, Johannesburg, South Africa, for his closing remarks. Over to you, Mr. James.
Hello, thank you very much for this forum, and also thank you really for inviting WFP to give these few remarks. And also needed to recognize the contribution from all the panelists and the organizers for what they have done. because I think they make very strong foundation for what I'll say. It's as the final words. It's to summarize, but there's very clear acknowledgement of why do we have to invest on nutrition, and a very clear acknowledgement that nutrition really forms a very strong foundation for health. And of course, all the governments, listening to all the various stakeholders, there's very clear acknowledgement that governments need to invest on nutrition for them to realize prosperity and even to really sustain the objectives that have already been achieved. One additional to this, and also, or rather related to this, is the issue of why do we have to invest on nutrition? And I think the evidence really has shown us that for every $1 of investment on nutrition, you get really $16 as returns. And as much as we might work in isolation, the more we work collectively and support the governments on this level of investment, we'll really be able to guide them to really ensure that at least with this level of investment in our very small way, from capacity to the actual dollar that comes from the government and donors, we'll be able to make strides towards really achieving this very objective. And I think with a few years that we have, less than 10 years to really World Health to reach the targets, we have a bigger challenge on this. And I think the more we commit on that collectively, it will really help us to move forward this agenda. There has been few injections that came in on why really do we invest in various ways. And I think the whole agenda of the, or rather the whole principle of the double duty action, that at least we can really invest on exclusive breastfeeding and also redesign other programs like safety nets to see with those safety net programs that we do, not all of us we are involved in, but at least with the private sector's contribution to the UN agencies, the civil society, and also the government, will really be able to really converge to some very tangible milestones on nutrition. And I think that's very critical in our advocacy as we really push the nutrition agenda forward. And all in all, the more we really recognize nutrition rights as a right, not just, I know there's a life part of it as a right, but if we also approach it from those politicians who will be looking for votes from us as stakeholders in the region, to really look at, can you also invest on protect this right and commit that you will invest on nutrition? I think it's a very critical point that we need to really push forward. We do recognize that I think over the past 1 year, we've really had a very a big challenge on COVID, which has even helped led us to really losing the gains that we had gained before. But I think it's also a time to really learn to see how fast do we regain those losses that we had, and I think bringing in the governments on board and helping the government's efforts, because we also know governments in this region, especially, they are grappling with not only dealing with the other development issues, but also the challenge of unemployment that is also coming in COVID. And I think the more we really look at it, this kind of a forum that we are really building on, which will be the climax being end of the year in Tokyo, will really be able probably to really bring some of those lost gains back on track if we work together. Needless to say that there's very clear, there are issues on coordination if we want to really work together. But I think as a UN, we really see we can, the United Nations can provide a good platform and create momentum for others really to offer the way to really move forward. So let's see this forum as a platform for more engagement, and create some catalyst to some extent to really see can convergence really build momentum to really achieving the bigger objectives that we are having for nutrition. And we really look forward to further collaboration, further engagement, and I think we can count on United Nations that are already in the forum that I speak somewhat partly on their behalf, that at least we are here to support government to really realize the objectives that they are really out to get, and count on our technical support, the Sun Business Network, really count on our support to really engage and move, try to really advocate for nutrition. Let me stop there, and thank you very much for this forum that granted, and look forward to further engagement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. James, for your wise counsel and trying to bring us back together at the end of this roundtable. As was highlighted at the beginning of this meeting, this year presents us with a key moment for positive change. We all have a role to play in strengthening efforts to end malnutrition, and your participation in this roundtable demonstrate the importance of us all coming together to play our part. I would basically, in the interest of time, I would encourage participants, the speakers, to connect with Jane separately to respond to her questions, because we had parked it. And I wanted to give 5 minutes to our listeners if they have any other questions for the panelists that we can respond to. If not, sorry, go ahead, Deborah. Did you see?
No, I was just going to say that we can absolutely put more questions in the chat box, and we are able to answer them later in writing and share the recording, of course, and the proceedings with all the participants. So please continue to post them, even though time may not allow us to answer all of them.
Yeah, sure. And thank you, Deborah. And I see that Mr. Matthews, you wanted to share your thoughts as well. So over to you. Just be cautious of the time. I'm going to interrupt you if it is going long. Yeah. Over to you. Thank you.
Not a problem. I think, so I wanted to actually comment on the question that was posed, like, how do you really make sure that, you're not just getting commitments, but you are getting action to some of the commitments that would be made. And I think one of the biggest learnings from our side, especially interacting with the different East and Southern Africa civil society networks, is the fact that political will is really key in getting those commitments being translated into action. What we've noticed is that, when the government has no agenda, or before a government is actually, put in office and they have no agenda at all to deal with nutrition, then it becomes very difficult to convert them, because they'll have other priorities. So getting the governments before the form government or political aspirants and just engaging them more is really, really key. And we should all, take this with keen interest. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matthew. I just wanted to go back to Renata. I just wanted to know if there are any last minute comments or thoughts that you wanted to share.
Thank you so much, Monica, and everybody. I guess just to congratulate everyone on their hard work and to being committed to prioritize nutrition, and that we look forward to receiving your commitments. And please feel free to reach out if any questions. We'll be happy to respond and support you in any way we can. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Renata. We only have 3 minutes left, and I do not want the youth voice to get lost. So I would remind everybody that she posed a question. Please do connect with her to respond to Jane's question. I'm just trying to ask the team, are there any other questions from the participants that we can address in last 2 to 3 minutes before we close?
I didn't see any, Monica, on our side.
Mm-hmm. Sure, thank you. And Huda, I saw you going on unmuting. Is there anything that you wanted to share?
It's true, but I tried to make my camera work, but it just stopped. But for that reason, I would like to say something, Monica. I would like to wholeheartedly thank you for the very able and inviting way of moderating this. I would like to thank all the contributors, many from the country level, focal points, civil society network, business network, UN or UN nutrition, but also young people speaking up and speaking out. That is what we need more. It has to happen at country level, but I think roundtables like this are excellent to inspire each other in still very difficult situation. This is, I would say, the power of we. This is what we need to do and what we can do in order to make sure that nobody of us is alone in this. You never walk alone in the Sun movement. I would like to also thank those people who have been organizing this meeting, because I know behind the scenes a lot is happening, but I think this was very inspiring. Thank you all. All the best in your day-to-day endeavors, and never forget, being a member of the Sun movement means that we can use the power of we, so don't of we together. So don't be afraid of asking things, and don't forget that the Global Nutrition Report is there to guide you in making smart commitments, not only for the Nutrition for Growth, but also for the Food System Summit, and to implement the strategy of Sun 3.0. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you so much, Erda. Thank you to all the participants for joining, and thanks to the organizers of this event who are at the back end. Thank you so much. We are ending on time, sharp at 11. Thank you, everyone. So much.